The Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom through investing in real estate. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life you love. I'm your co-host, Tresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future.
And I'm Melissa Baker, real estate investor and fitness coach specializing in turning properties from drab to fab. I'm here to help motivate and inspire you to build your dream life because, girl, you deserve it. Hello, beautiful. Today, we are diving into one of the most popular real estate investing strategies beginners work with. We're going to break it down and we're going to explain why this strategy works. We're talking the BRRRR method. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And why it's such a powerful way to build long-term wealth in real estate. So no jargon, no overwhelming you, just real talk about how this strategy works and how you can start without quitting your job and without draining your savings. So we're going to cover what to look for in a property, how to manage your renovations without swinging a hammer, which is great, and the magic of refinancing to get your money back and then doing it all over again. So if you've been curious about the BRRRR method and wondering if it's the right move for you, this episode is for you.
Absolutely.
So Tresa, let's dive in.
Okay, well, first of all, let's just talk about what is BRRRR. Breaking it down, what does it actually stand for?
So the BRRRR is actually an acronym, and it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and then repeat. It's an investment strategy. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It helps you build a portfolio of rental properties with little money left in the deal.
Absolutely.
So it's buying rental property that can be used for traditional long-term or mid-term rentals, even short-term rentals like VRBOs or Airbnbs, and it's without needing, you don't need too much money to get into it. You can use other people's money, right? Or asset-based loans. You kind of use both of those in this one.
Yes, you do. So let's talk about stage one, which is the buy stage. This is where you buy the property. It's going to be an investment property, which you can turn into what you just said. It could be your traditional long-term rental, which is usually rented from about about 6 months to 2 years. Okay. Usually a 1 year contract is signed. That's what we call a traditional long-term rental. Now, a mid-term rental, these are becoming more and more popular.
Yes.
And these are usually for about 30 days to 6 months. We see a lot of traveling nurses and all of that doing the whole midterm rental thing. And then the short-term rental, which is, the most popular right now, is short-term rentals such as VRBOs, Airbnbs, and those are 1 to 2 nights up to 30 days. Right. And you can make 2 to 3 times on a short-term and midterm rental than as you can just your regular traditional. So anyway, so everything that we're teaching you could use this strategy whether you're doing long-term, mid-term, or short-term. I just wanted to say that. So now let's go back and talk about the buy stage. You're always looking for the right property, the right investment property. Now, we purchase off-market properties from motivated and distressed sellers. We're always trying to create win-wins. Yeah. We have a particular formula that will almost guarantee you a profit when you use this formula. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't know. Whenever they want to, a lot of people decide, hey, I want to own a rental property. They know the traditional way, which is going to require them to put 20% down. Right. You got to have your great credit and all of that, but we don't do that. We are purchasing off-market properties. These are properties that are not listed on the MLS with a realtor. These are off-market, usually, again, by someone that's maybe facing a foreclosure, going through a distressed situation.
So if we're not going to get a loan on it, like the traditional, the 20% down, how are we going to pay for it?
Well, we're going to use other people's money.
Love it.
There's actually people out there that will give these short-term loans because we're going to get enough money to not only purchase the property, but do any rehab. And there are people out there, just like myself, like you, that we would lend our money out because it's a great ROI, and they're short-term loans, maybe 6 months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, up to 9 months, but usually for rentals only, up to 6 months. So again, Now, these houses, when you use this formula, which is 80% of the ARV minus repairs, that's what that formula is.
ARV is the after repair value.
That's right.
Okay.
What is the value of this property going to be?
Okay.
So that's the formula that we use, which really, in reality, we want to meet what we call the 1% rule, which means that the property needs to rent out at 1% of the purchase price of the home.
Right.
Now, this is not going to work in really high-end areas because you'll have people like maybe in California like, oh, we can't do that. Because when I say that, if we purchase the property for $200,000, that would mean that we need to rent it out for $2,000 a month. That would mean 1% rule. If we purchase the house at $300,000, we would want to rent it out at $3,000 a month. So obviously, if you're purchasing a home for $700,000, it's very difficult to get $7,000 a month in rent. So
Right.
every property is not a rental property. You have to find rental property areas.
Right.
So that's super important to remember. And so most of these homes are going to need a certain amount of rehab. So we have to get it rent ready. And again, just want to mention that there are loans available to investors to not only purchase the price of the property, but to do the rehab. And this is absolutely amazing. So
And that's the second step in the BRRRR method is rehabbing the home.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a minute because there are very smart, stress-free ways to handle the renovations. And what we teach in the RAIN is to not do the work yourself.
Yes.
You want to hire contractors. And the network, the RAIN, teaches you how to pay the contractors after the work is done so that you don't run into some of those nightmares you hear about dealing with contractors. We've all heard
Absolutely.
the horror stories, correct?
Absolutely. And here's the deal. When you use the formula that we teach, you can afford to pay contractors.
Right.
Because one of the things that investors think is if they do the work themselves, they will save money. But now you've turned into a contractor. So we want you to hire the contractors out if you use the formula that we teach, and if you use the specialized knowledge that we teach about how to deal with contractors, then you can. What we want to teach is you go get another property and another property and another property, and you let your contractors do the work. Now
Because time is money.
Absolutely
You don't want to spend
Absolutely.
your time renovating a house when you can hire someone to do it while you're out buying the
Yes.
next one.
So hiring the right team is all about it. You don't want to be a do-it-yourself. You want to find trustworthy contractors, have a project manager, and just kind of who keeps things on track. You've got to remember not to over-improve. This is one thing that new investors really want to do. They get emotionally involved and they want
Yes.
to over-improve the property, but you want to stick to the budget. And usually there's no need for these high-end finish outs. You're focusing on upgrades that's just going to increase the rent value and the property appraisal. So usually you're concentrating on your kitchens and your bathrooms and bedroom. Those are the main things. But you want to stay on budget. You want to set a realistic rehab budget, and then you prioritize the things that's really going to help this property to rent out for the most amount of money, and you don't do all this unnecessary work because that's going to eat into your cash flow every single month.
Absolutely. So we've purchased our property and we've hired a contractor, we've rehabbed the property, we've stayed on budget.
Yoo-hoo!
Now we've got to get a renter in there.
That's right.
We're gonna rent it
Renting
out.
Finding the right tenants. So again, we are all about not being, now we don't want to be a landlord.
No.
We want to own the property, but we are all about using a property management company. They will run credit reports. They're going to pre-screen your tenant. They're going to have the right contracts for your particular state. They're going to set the expectations with the tenants up front, and they handle all the issues. So we're not getting phone calls in the middle of the night about an overflowing toilet.
Nobody
the
wants
air
that.
conditioner. Absolutely. So remember that it's not what it costs you, it's what it makes you. Because a lot of people think, well, we'll save money if we do it ourselves. Girl, again, not teaching you how to be a contractor. We're not teaching you how to be a landlord. We want to teach you how to be a real estate investor. We want you to go out there, hire the contractors, hire the property management companies to do those kinds of things, and you're out getting the next property and the next property and the next property.
So having a rental should really be a very hands-off way of investing.
100%. It's
really.
passive investment
Yes.
strategy. This is where you can keep your full-time job and have multiple rentals. You can, be on vacation and you're not having to deal with any of the headaches.
And it's a great way to build the long-term wealth. So let's talk about
Absolutely.
that, because there's a lot of several different streams of income within having rentals like this. Then you can get the rentals using the BRRRR method. So
Yes, let's talk
about
about it.
these.
So there's 5 streams of wealth generation when we're talking about rentals. And so first one is the most popular that people know about, and that's cash flow.
Right.
That is what is left over. So once you're renting that property out, and obviously you've got to pay the monthly mortgage, and you've got to pay some taxes, and you've got to pay some overhead. Well, what's left over from what your tenant is paying you and what is costing you to own that property, that's your monthly cash flow. And a lot of people get caught up in that number.
Okay.
And I'm going to be honest, cash flow on one property just may be anywhere from $200, $300, sometimes it's $500 or even more. But that's not what you're really counting on.
That's not the biggest thing to look at.
That's not the biggest thing to
Okay.
look for. Obviously, that's nice. And when you own multiple of those and you're getting $200,
Adds
$300,
up.
$400, that starts adding up.
Okay.
But
Okay.
don't only decide if you want to own rental property based on the cash flow.
Okay.
Because the next thing that you want to think about is appreciation.
Oh, this is the one I like.
Yes. So within 5 to 10 years, most properties will appreciate double, sometimes
Yes.
triple the amount, but mostly, you can count on it in 5 to
Doubling.
10 years doubling.
Yeah.
So the longer, and rentals is a long-term strategy. You want to hang on to these properties for, 10, 20, 30 years. And these are properties that you can pass down to your children and your children's children. So I call this legacy money,
Yes.
leaving it to the next generation. But
Yes.
again, as that property appreciates, hey, every 5 to 10 years, you could go out and refinance this property.
And take that
Take
money out, do it
buy
again.
another property
Which we'll
with
get
it.
to that.
Absolutely. So that's another stream.
The
of wealth
other one,
generation.
next one, loan pay down.
Loan pay down.
I love this too.
Well, yeah.
Because basically someone else is paying your mortgage.
Absolutely.
You're owning this property and you've got someone else making the payment.
You got it. They are paying you the rent every single month, and you're taking that and paying down that loan. So every single month you owe less on that. Isn't that beautiful?
It really is.
Again,
It's so smart.
and so many people are not considering that.
Right.
Okay, so the third one is the tax benefits. There are so many tax benefits to owning when you own
Yes.
rental property.
Absolutely,
And so
there
one thing to remember is that the tax code was written by the wealthy for the wealthy and for investors, if we're just really being honest. So there's so many tax benefits that you will need to look into that is going to help you to make money and save
Yes.
save taxes.
Yes.
All right, and then last but not least is equity. This is instant equity. When you're purchasing these properties the way we teach you,
Right.
using the formula,
Yes.
you are going to have instant equity in these properties. We are never buying these properties at full price.
Right. And you want that instant equity. That's one thing. I don't know that we can stress that enough, especially to new investors, is to stick with the formula. Do
Absolutely.
not deviate from the formula.
You got it. You got
So
it.
many people want to. But you just don't want to do that because you've got that instant equity once it's said and done.
Absolutely.
All right, so the next step, we've purchased the property, we've rehabbed the property, we've got it rented out. Now it's time to refinance it.
Woohoo.
So we're going to refinance after the rehab's been done and we're renting the property. It helps you to pull out your original investment so that you can reinvest into your next property.
Absolutely. So understanding the loan process, you want to work with a lender that's familiar with the BRRRR loans.
Okay.
And now there's different timelines and seasoning periods. So sometimes you have to have this house rented out for 3 months or 6 months.
Okay.
So you just need to know that. But we use what we called DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio. These are investor loans and they're asset based. I want you to understand that. So it's based on the asset, the property itself.
Okay.
And you only can get these loans if you purchase the property using the formula that we just talked about.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the thing that you need to know, it's not based on your ability to pay it back. So there's no 2 years of pay stubs or income tax reports. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And the refinance is a long-term loan where when we used other people's money to purchase the property and to rehab it, that's a short-term loan.
Okay.
But now when we refinance, we're turning it into a long-term, usually about 30 years. And so remember, that's why that 1% rule is so important, because you want to be able to rent out for 1% of that purchase price.
Okay.
This is to assure that you have that cash flow that we talked about.
Sure. Yep. And then, are we at the final step?
We are at the final step.
What do we do?
Repeat it.
Do it all over again. Once you have refinanced, got that money out, you're going to just do it all over again with another property and not putting your 20% down like most people are doing with investment properties. There's no limit to how many of these you can have. You just keep doing it over and over and over again and building legacy money.
Legacy money. What is that? This is, again, money that first of all, it's going to make you a lot of money.
Yes.
You're going to get that cash flow, the tax benefits, the loan pay down, the appreciation, the instant equity, all of those things. As well as maybe when you own these properties, this is going to be your retirement money.
Yep.
But then when you are gone, we're passing these down to our children and our children's children. And that's the beautiful thing, is we're not leaving our kids with a bunch of bills. Instead, we're leaving them with assets.
Absolutely.
And what a blessing that
Absolutely.
is.
So summing this up for you, we are going to use hard money or private lenders for the short-term loans that cover buying and rehabbing the property. And then we're going to refinance that later pays them off with the DSCR loans that you were talking about.
That's right.
All right. This is also a great investment strategy for seller financing and for joint ventures. If you want to JV with someone, partnering up with someone who has money but not time to put into something, is a great way to get started if you
Absolutely.
If you
So when you are going to need a little bit of money when we're discussing owning rental property, but for some of the women in our inside the rain, they don't have money at all to spend. So they are, again, doing joint ventures with other women. So other women maybe bring the money, but you are bringing, hey, I'll oversee the project. I'll get the project under contract.
Boots on the ground.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the thing that I want our listeners to know is that anybody can do this. No matter where you are, in your finances, anything is possible. And again, of course, Inside the Rain, we go into great detail over all of these things, but we want our listeners to know that this is an amazing strategy that anyone can do.
Yes, it's all about following a proven system and making really smart, informed choices. So if you're looking to build wealth and leave a legacy, consider the BRRRR strategy. And come back, check out our masterclass at withoutfearofherfuture.com to learn more, all right? So we are so thankful that you are hanging out with us today. We hope to see you again soon. God bless you. Be brave and dream big.